3, 2, and 1. The regular season finale weekend in the Big Ten Conference, and boy, oh boy, is there so much at stake. Seeding in the Big Ten Tournament that starts next week in Indianapolis, and of course, bids to the NCAA Tournament on the line. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Locked On Big Ten Podcast, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Ben Stevens. It is Friday, March 5th, and on today's episode, it's a full weekend preview, and by full, I mean full. All 14 teams in action, 7 games on both Saturday and Sunday, 3 on Saturday, 4 on Sunday to round out the regular season in the Big Ten Conference. And joining me, as I teased to at the end of yesterday's episode, to round out this regular season with our full weekend preview is the most special guest I could ever imagine. It is George Balekji, a great friend of the program, back on the podcast, a sports reporter and anchor at NBC 15 Madison in the heart of Big Ten country to get you set for this full and final weekend of the regular season of the Big Ten Conference, Big Ten Tournament seeding, NCAA Tournament seeding, NCAA Tournament bubble watch, and bids. George, there's so much to talk about. I am so glad to have your knowledge here for it.
There's seeds, there are bubbles, there's going to be Big Ten basketball, and I'm joined by Ben. Thank you for having me on. Way too high of praise, most special guest, but I'll take it because I'm excited about this weekend. We are on the verge of the conference tournament, and there are so many games with seeding implications. And for some teams, if they want to play in March, regardless of the Big Ten tournament, what outcome has for them, so many games this weekend, which is like crazy to think of because there are teams that we knew that are near and dear to our hearts, or my heart at least, because of where I'm from, that seemed like to be a lock to be dancing in March. But damn it, Rutgers, I need you guys to wake up. I want to see you dance for the first time in what feels like literally is forever. We're going to cover it all right now, though. I'm excited for it.
And that will be a part of our third and creative category. And as you guys know, on our full weekend previews, we break it down into 3 categories. We will start, because there are 7 games, with our big Big Ten game of the week. And that is a top 10 tilt, Ohio State and Illinois. That game coming on Saturday afternoon. And then George and I will go through our 3 categories: our locked on lock, our best bet for the weekend, if you will, our underdog special, and then a third creative category of our choosing. I think George has a very special one, and he brought it to us the first time ever when we did our first full weekend preview for the basketball season in early December. He's got another rendition of possibly a prop bet, but I'm not going to give it away just yet until we get to that third creative category. So, George, let's begin with the Big Ten game of the weekend. The 4th-ranked Illinois Fighting Illini on the road in Columbus, visiting the 7th-ranked Ohio State Buckeyes. Of course, we are getting our spreads from Ken Pomeroy because at this moment we have 3 games on Saturday, 4 games on Sunday. The lines from our friends at betonline.ag are not out yet. They will be out about 24 hours prior to tip. So we get our predictions from Kenneth Pomeroy himself, the smartest mind in all of college football. As we focus on the Big Ten game of the week, Ken Pom sees it as Illinois a favorite by 1 on the road, the over-under total 155. George, let's set the stage a little bit here for this Big Ten game of the week. This very well could determine who is that final, 4th and final number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament with so much at stake. And what we do not know at the moment is if Ayo Dosunmu will suit up for the regular season finale for the Illinois Fighting Illini. If he is back, could that affect how this game is played? But George, let's break it down. Ohio State, a 1-point home underdog. Who do you like in this game between the Illini and the Buckeyes?
I'm going to go with the hotter team right now. And I know I've spoken about this in past weeks, but it's also the hottest team arguably in the Big Ten right now, or you could say it, and they're playing without their best player. I think the confidence that Illinois has grown, that their internal confidence to see how well they can play without Ayo Dosunmu. And to me, what Trent Frazier said after their most recent win spoke to me. He said, we're the hardest playing team in the country. That's our statement. After they blew the doors off Michigan, even without our best player, we've got a lot of guys on this team. They do have a whole lot of depth, but they understand their roles. And this isn't a part of Trent Frazier speaking up or Kofi Coburn is saying, this is my team. They know this is Ayo's team, but they're going to hold it down until he comes back. What Andre Cabello has done and the growth that they have gotten through this. Obviously, when Ayo went down, I was heartbroken because I wanted him to continue to make a case for National Player of the Year. And I just want to see as much Illinois basketball with Ayo in the lineup as possible. But when you take a step back, you realize that this team is set to make a deep run in March. There's a guarantee. It always happens every year. Coming to the Elite Eight, if they make it to the Final Four, someone's going to get in foul trouble. That someone could very well be Ayo Dosunmu, and they've learned how well they can play without him. It's given Andre Cabello, who's still learning how to play the college game, so much more confidence. What he was doing against Michigan, getting to the rim, finding ways to create shots. He's a guy that I love because I would see him drive in, and normally you'd think a kick out would happen, or you try and find Kofi and feed it down to him. His footwork for such a small guard and a guy that's like 170 pounds soaking wet is so good. He pivots and he's just annoying because you've guarded him and you've done everything you can for 12 seconds. He finds a way not to only get a shot off, but make that bucket. So I love the way that Illinois is rolling. Meanwhile, Ohio State's lost 3 in a row. How healthy is Dwayne Washington right now? We were seeing Hovland the other night in their games. How else EJ Liddell going to play against Kofi? I just give the edge to Kofi there because he's one of the baddest dudes in the country. So that's why I really like Illinois in this one, Ben.
George Balekji has a ranking for Big Ten basketball in terms of how he categorizes people. He has an MFer, an MF dog, and a dog. Is that the correct ranking? Can you break it down for me and give it in terms of Andre Cabello? Tell us what Andre Cabello is and how it fits in the rankings.
He's a hooper still. He's not a dog yet, but he can be a dog.
Not a dog. Okay.
No. It's everyone's a hooper in the Big Ten for the most part. You got hoopers, you got dogs, you got mother effers, and then you got mother effing dogs. Mother effing dog, Io DeSumo, Isaiah Livers. Right now, the run that he's on, Aaron Henry. I know Spartan Dog is something that's big. Shout out to our guys Will and Matt at Locked On Spartans, one of the best podcasts in all of college basketball, aside from Locked On Big Ten, of course.
Thank you.
But there's Spartan dogs, but Aaron Henry right now is being a mother effing dog. And that's where the guys you got to look for. Luka Garza, I mean, he's a mountain, but he's a mother effing dog too. And they got a lot of dogs around him. Bohannon, Frederick, Wisekamp, all those guys. Franz Wagner, dog, not a mother effing dog. Hunter Dickinson, dog, not a mother effer yet. You know what? He's a mother effer. After what he did to Luka Garza, single-handedly, he's a mother effer, but he's not a mother effing dog yet. And that was really hard to do, Ben, without cursing. So that's how much I love you, and I love this because I want to return to this level of this, to this outlet, to this podcast.
True kudos to you right there, because not only did I ask you to explain the rankings and focus on one person, you put other people from the Big Ten and went thoroughly through all of those categories. That is why George Balekji is on this podcast, to enlighten us all and make us smarter fans going into the final weekend of the Big Ten regular season. He also brings up an incredible point about what this does for the depth of Illinois heading into this stretch run, into the conference tournament, and then, of course, into March Madness as well. I think their 3-game winning streak without Io DeSumo sets them up so well for a deep run in March, because it has allowed these guys, the younger guys especially, and Andre Cabello and Adam Miller, to gain confidence in crucial moments, knowing they can play and can compete with the best people in all of college basketball. You talk about what Kofi has done in this 3-game winning streak without Io: 18 points per game, 7 boards per game. Andre Cabello near 15 points per game and filling it up across the stat sheet. And then, of course, their senior leader, Trent Frazier, who has moved his role around a little bit to accommodate the scores that they have with Io and Kofi down low. He has become their vocal leader, their defensive stopper, and then you see what he can still do offensively and what he did in that drumming of Michigan on Tuesday night. 22 points for Trent Frazier was the hot hand on offense for Brad Underwood's team. They are set up now, I think, playing without Io and then adding him back into the fold to be a team that is a true Final Four contender, and I expect them to be that 4th and final number 1 seed, because I expect them to beat beat Ohio State on the road on Saturday afternoon. Ohio State has lost 3 straight games, but those 3 straight games against Michigan in one of the best college basketball games you will ever see in your life, against Michigan State, who was starting to round into form, and then against Iowa. But that game against Iowa concerns me a little bit. It was a season-low offensive output of 57 points. In the game against the Spartans and the Hawkeyes, Ohio State shot below 30% from 3, and then the 3rd best three-point shooting team in the Big Ten Conference, generally averaging about 37% from deep in their games. They need to return to that. They need to find that rhythm again offensively. They need Justin Arns to shoot the ball better, because that's all he does. They need Dwayne Washington Jr. to be healthy and productive from deep. And they need Kyle Young to round back into form. He was dealing with some health issues as well. He played in the last game against Iowa, didn't play all that much, I think about 15 minutes. If he can be healthy, he is a huge factor on their team on both the defensive side of the ball and offensively as well. It's hard for me to pick this game, because I do think Ohio State plays a very competitive ball game and makes this a really good one on Saturday afternoon, a 4 p.m. Eastern tip on ESPN. But I have to lean with Illinois. How hot they are playing right now at the perfect time. And I do truly believe, because the moles on the ground that we have in Champaign, our good friend Brandon Simberg, a men's basketball beat writer for the Daily Illini, has told me that he has talked with people in Io's camp, and he believes that Io will do everything in his power to play on Saturday. That is what he believes.
Yes.
Don't hold him to it. He's not reporting it. He has told me, and I'm not going out and saying anything on a limb that would get him in trouble. He believes that Io is likely to play on Saturday, because he will try his best to be back in competition. We saw Io warming up in Ann Arbor on Tuesday night before that game. Obviously was not cleared to play. We think he might be cleared to play for Saturday, and it would be a huge benefit for Illinois in the regular season finale in a top 10 tilt against 7th-ranked Ohio State.
I loved Io in Ann Arbor wearing an orange, like, Nike Dry Fit cutoff tank top on the sideline.
Right.
Because you
Still
look and you're like, wait, Yeah, well, yes, but I'm also looking. I'm like, wait, is he playing? Like, imagine how much it messes with your opponent's mind because you see him warming up. He's not wearing a mask. We saw he had a black eye. It looked like on his.
A good
Trying to think
shiner.
what I'm seeing on his right eye. That looked like it went away. So, of course, Underwood mentioned he was going through concussion protocol. So it's more than whatever facial fracture or injury that he's dealing with.
Great
If
point.
I was able to play, I love it. I think that is literally the deciding factor in this game. So at that point, I know Illinois is a favorite, but I would even say with the over/under at 155 right now. I mean, you got to hammer that over because if Iowa plays, that has to increase. And I think they hit that over easily. So if you're tilting towards now, if you want to sit down and wait on Iowa, I understand that one as well. But I would take the over right now. And I got burned by the over 3 times last week. But if Iowa is leaning towards playing, it helps him out. And I like you mentioned the depth, Trent Frazier, Andre Miller, DeMonte Williams, Georgie Benashvili. They got so many guys in so many spots. That's what I love about Illinois, Ben. They have depth. When what comes down to in March, obviously your dogs will lead you to the promised land, but the other guys got to step up. And random dudes are going to have big nights throughout March. That's how it's going to be, and especially in the Big Ten tournament too. That's why I love Illinois beyond this Saturday, but moving forward.
That total of 155, as Ken Palm predicts it, he has Illinois winning 78-77. We have the 4th best offense in the country in Ohio State. We have Illinois with the 9th best offense in the country. Illinois also in the top 10 in both offensive efficiency and defensive efficiency, which is a huge mark to get to as Ken Palm sees it. So now, George, let's move on to our Locked On Lock categories for this final weekend of Big Ten hoops. Who is your Locked On Lock, and what is the game being played?
You can't release my location after I announce this Locked On Lock. You got to promise me
early on. I did early on, though, in the conversation. That's how I introduced you. You know that, right?
Men in Black, Flash, somehow do it through a podcast. Everyone forget.
George
Hey, I'm
Balekji.
George.
Undefined
What's up,
area.
guys? Yeah, I'm coming to you guys from Canada, and that's why I love Iowa -6 versus Wisconsin. Lock that bad boy in. Iowa's locked in defensively, and this was a guy that hated them defensively a week ago, but after what they did against Ohio State, they're still proving it to me. But Iowa can shoot the heck out of the ball, and Wisconsin can't do it worth a lick. If Demetric Trice doesn't go off for 19 points in the last 2 minutes and 18 seconds, getting 15 of those points via the 3-ball, 5 threes in the last 2+ minutes of a game, that loss against Illinois is so ugly. The Badgers are not in the top 25. They're not playing like a top 25 team right now. If he doesn't go off for that, they shot 5 for 26 from deep in that game. Since their first Illinois loss, they've shot less than 35% from deep 5 times, lost 4 of those games. And they lost even when they shot 38% because they faced the 6th best shooting team in the Big Ten, which is like, I'm saying that's what they are right now. They're the 6th best shooting team in the Big Ten, which is kind of mind-boggling with their struggles. But their offense, they're just settling for a lot of threes. You know, the swing offense is what they build their brand off of. They like to drive and kick. They want to always touch the paint, and it just hasn't been there. And then also, I mean, against Williams, who's always going to do that for you for Purdue, and Travion Williams against Kofi Coburn. Same thing, Luka Garza, man. These are big dudes in the paint. They're getting out physical down low, whether it's Nate Reavers or Micah Potter, and just not boding well for the Badgers at all. So that's why I think Iowa lock them in -6.
You bring up a great point about the Hawkeyes defense as well. Starkly improved over the last 3 weeks or so, all the way up now into the top 60 as Ken Palm sees it, which is a huge leap from where they were around the 120 mark just about 3 weeks ago. Great point. And we're not going to mention where George is in Schmadishman, Wisconsin. So we're not going to say that. We don't know where he is right now, in undetermined location, but that's how you know he covers the Big Ten with a very unbiased attitude. He's giving you winners for this final weekend of Big Ten basketball. I agree with it. I mean, I think that margin is a little bit too low. I think by the time we get to Sunday, that will be a little bit higher, maybe around 7.5 or 8, but I'd take it with the variance up there as well. Iowa
Ben,
in action on Thursday night.
If it was -12, I would take it.
Yeah.
I'm being straight up with you guys because they're still allowing teams to shoot 34% from 3, and the Badgers are, and Iowa's on an average clip of 40% from deep. And as I was going through who's hoopers and dogs and mother effers and mountains, like I said, Wieskamp, Bohannon, Frederick, of course, Luka Garza, the best player in college basketball. And when it comes to Wisconsin, outside of Demetric Trice, they just don't have that guy that can keep up in the scoring clip. And a guy that honestly you can rely on late in games. It's just odd the way they're playing for a team stacked with experience, stacked with seniors. If it's not Demetric Trice, and I love Jonathan Davis, he's a freshman. He's not at the point yet where he's going to carry this team. It comes on Meech's shoulders, and that's tough when it's going to be a 1-on-4, essentially 1-on-5, 1-on-6, depending on how well Iowa's depth shows up.
And as George knows as well, Wisconsin is 0-7 against the top 5 teams in the Big Ten Conference so far this season. Of course, Iowa slotted in that 3 spot as we look at the conference tournament, most likely staying in that position unless Purdue can make a run. And that leads me well to my locked on lock of the weekend. And it is that game in the great state of Indiana. In 49 other states, George, it's just basketball. But in the state of Indiana, it means that much more. And that's where all of our national attention goes to in about a week from now when we get to the Big Ten tournament. And then, of course, the big dance in the great state of Indiana, with games being played in Mackey Arena, where Saturday's contest between the Hoosiers and the Boilermakers take place. As Ken Palm sees it, Purdue a 6-point favorite, the over-under total 134. Now, George, trivia time for you. Can you name me the last time that Indiana was able to beat their rival, the Purdue Boilermakers, on the basketball court?
The fact that this is a trivia question is
makes you think.
Troubling.
Yeah.
But I don't want to overthink it. All right, I just got to shoot one out because it's bad podcasting if I give this amount of thought that I want to. 2017.
Close. We were still in college. It was February 20th, 2016. By the time we get to tomorrow's tip between Purdue and Indiana, it will have been 1,841 days since the last time that IU beat their rivals in the Purdue Boilermakers. It has been a very long time.
There, but that's insane. That's insane. For Indiana, the Hoosiers. That's wild.
Archie Miller winless against Purdue at his time at the helm of Indiana's basketball program. Purdue has won 8 in a row in this series. And I think, George, Indiana has given us their last stand for this season. They will miss the NCAA tournament being played in the state of Indiana. The biggest question for the Hoosiers now, will they retain Archie Miller? Will they pay that huge buyout of $10+ million, or they keep him for another year when the buyout goes lower and probably fire him then? That's what I think they do. But as we focus on my locked on lock for this Saturday between Purdue and Indiana, this Purdue team will still be very motivated, not just because it's a rivalry game, but Purdue needs to win this game to lock in that number 4 seed for the Big Ten tournament and earn that double bye for the conference tourney in Indianapolis next week. So Purdue is not going to overlook this in the final regular season game looking ahead to the postseason. They need this game to be that number 4 seed in the Big Ten tourney. And what has impressed me most about Purdue, who is on a 4-game winning streak, is the performance of the freshmen. They now rank top 20 in both offensive and defensive efficiency across the team, according to Ken Palm. But the freshmen have found their stride. Zach Edey against Wisconsin earlier this week, 21 points. He has scored in double figures 4 of his last 6 games. And his classmate, Jaden Ivey, 18 points against the Badgers, 4 straight games in double figures. Trevion Williams scored 9 points against the Badgers on Tuesday night, and Purdue still won that game. That is how impressive these freshmen have been.
And he got in foul trouble early in the second half. And once I saw Trevion Williams pick up his 4th foul, I literally looked and go, this has to be it. This is where Wisconsin has to get their first top 5 win in the Big Ten at least. Instead, they lost their 7th straight against a ranked opponent. But more importantly, you mentioned Edey. He went apple picking for rebounds. Literally at his height. What is he, 7'4"?
7'4", yes.
7'4". And like Nate Reavers, Micah Potter, those are tall dudes. Those are big guys. And Edey makes them look like me, midgets.
Yeah.
Well,
hey, you're a beautiful man. Don't you talk about yourself like that. But yes, Zach Edey is a very large, very, very large individual. It's hard for people that are boxing him out because he's not going over your back in the terms of calling a foul.
Yeah, it's not a foul. He's literally just reaching forward and he gets it before you can even jump. Yeah, but that's why that win was big. And Jaden Ivey, I loved watching him play too. I believe his mom's the head coach of Notre Dame women's basketball. So it's like
Ivey, indeed.
You always love coaches' sons. Like you gotta love Jaden Ivey because his mom is a head coach of one of the most storied programs in all of college basketball, men's or women's side. Shout out to Niall Ivey. Thank you for remembering your name. But like the guys, and then Matt Painter's a heck of a coach. I just love where Purdue's rolling. I really like that lock too. It'll still be must-watch basketball because Trace Jackson Davis going against that front court will be entertaining. And you know what? I would love Indiana to make the big dance because I want to see more TJD, but we'll see if he comes back next year either.
1,841 days by the time we get till tomorrow since Purdue last lost to Indiana. I don't think it happens tomorrow. My locked on lock, the Boilermakers -6, take it up to -9, whatever. I feel very confident in Purdue. And I'm saying this as well, George. Look out for those Boilermakers in the NCAA tournament. I think they'll be a 4 seed, a 5 seed. I think they can be very dangerous depending on who the 1 seed is in their region of the bracket. I would really like how Purdue matches up. I really love what those freshmen are doing, added to the experience of Trevion Williams. Sasha Stefanovic is starting to find his stroke. Purdue could be a dangerous team in the big dance, but we got to keep it going a little bit. We're talking a little long-winded. We're both very excited for this final weekend of the regular season in Big Ten basketball. So let's move on to our next category, the underdog special. George, what dogs, not mother effing dogs, but maybe mother effing dogs, are barking for you this weekend in your underdog special?
I got to do this right for my friends over at Locked On Spartans. My underdog special is the Spartan Dogs. Aaron Henry, Michigan State, +9 in Ann Arbor. If the Wolverines win, they hang a banner. Give me the +9 Spartans there. They got some other effing dogs in East Lansing. I love them +9. So that I don't expect them to win, but I expect them to at least lose by 8. Give me the Spartans.
The second game of the back-to-back this weekend. George and I are recording before Thursday night's action. Michigan, most likely, with a win over Michigan State on Thursday, clinches that #1 spot in the Big Ten tournament. But I expect it to be a very tight game. As our friends at betonline.ag see it, they have Michigan State as a 13.5-point underdog for Thursday night's contest. I don't think it's going to be that large of a margin of victory for Michigan. I think it's going to be a lot closer than that. Thursday night, a big game. Sunday, maybe even a bigger game. If Michigan State can get a win over Michigan, they will be dancing for the 23rd straight year. And Georgia's saying, let those dogs bark. Dogs bark. The Spartan Dogs on Sunday, +9 at home in East Lansing, I believe, right?
Yeah, and it's also, I got my spreads and my locations of games and banners mixed up, back-to-backs, Michigan State.
No, +9 is the right for the regular season finale, though. It's +9.
Yeah, but I thought location-wise, I got that wrong. I was like, the Wolverines, if they win, they hang a banner. That's why +9 and all that. So I apologize to everyone at home. I was just really excited to yell Spartan Dogs into my microphone. My neighbors are now complaining.
Yeah, they're like, what, dogs? I thought George wasn't allowed to have dogs in this apartment building. What's good? I thought you did a great job. You sold the energy right there, and I would agree with you. I think both Thursday night and Sunday will be very competitive games between these two rivals on the hardwood.
They're doing Michigan State's doing it right, where like you see the ugly parts of their season come up and like start to bubble throughout games of like where their shortcomings have been, whether bad shooting, just mental errors, like what are you doing? But like the way Josh Langford is playing late as well, but hitting big time shots, what Hauser is doing for them, and most importantly, Aaron Henry just saying, give me the ball, get out of my way, let me take over. They're just finding a way to win, and that's part of this. What's a cliche about March Madness, Ben? Survive and advance. They're finding a way to survive day to day, game to game.
Aaron Henry has been that mother effing dog. He was pretty much said, hop in, boys. We're going to the tournament. 18 of his 22 points on Tuesday night against Indiana came in that second half. He went on a 12-3 run by himself in the final 4 minutes of that game against IU to spurn the comeback for Michigan State to keep their season alive. He is playing some incredible basketball as a senior leader for Tom Izzo's crew. I love what Aaron Henry is doing. Yes, he is a mother effing dog. My underdog special is one of the final games of the Big Ten regular season. It is the battle of two of the hottest bottom seeds you will find in the Big Ten tournament. The number 13 seed Northwestern and the number 14 seed Nebraska. Probably the hottest 13-14 seed matchup you will ever see in the history of the Big Ten tournament in the regular season finale. Nebraska plays on Thursday night. I expect them to lose to Iowa, but they head into that game against the Hawkeyes in Carver Hawkeye on a 2-game winning streak. Northwestern heads into the matchup against the Huskers this weekend, also on a 2-game winning streak. And what I expect here is for Nebraska to cover the 5-point spread as Ken Palm sees it. It's the Huskers +5 on the road in Evanston on Sunday. I think Nebraska covers. Look out for the name Lat Man. He's been playing incredibly well. 25 points against Rutgers in a shocking win for the Huskers in PBA on Monday night. What I also like, the total's 135. Pay attention to that. Both teams play at a very fast pace. Nebraska has the 15th fastest possession length in the entire country. Northwestern not far behind at 64th. I expect points. I expect this to kind of be a fun game between the two bottom teams of the Big Ten. I think it's going to be enjoyable basketball, which is a crazy thing to say in a game between Northwestern and Nebraska. So I like Nebraska to cover. And if you're a real betting man, I take the over.
I'm just going to applaud you for your optimism.
Thank you. You know what? I got to believe. And I think the Huskers, kudos to them. They lost their leading scorer in Teddy Allen. Yeah. Fred Hoiberg still has these guys competing each and every night. They are playing their hardest, and Northwestern also rallying back. They've won 2 straight. 2 teams that have won 2 straight games in the Big Ten Conference. Northwestern bucking a 13-game losing streak. Nebraska, who had won 1 game in 32 tries, now on a 2-game winning streak. I mean, you got to give them credit.
Hey, if we go back a week, you were saying, is Michigan State the hottest team in the country after they won 2 straight? And I said, Ben, you are crazy. No, get out of here. And look who was wrong in that one. So if you're looking for teams to be deemed the hottest team in the country and they have a 2-game winning streak, and you're looking for someone to say that and then you abide by them, look no further than Big Ten Stevens.
The best battle you will ever see between a number 13 seed and a number 14 seed in a conference tournament that will come up next week in Indianapolis. Both teams locked into those bottom 2 spots in the Big Ten league standing. So let's finish with our third and final category. George, I think we got to do this in like 2 minutes so I can keep my bosses happy with the minimum amount of length that we can go in a podcast. So here we go. Third and final category of your creative choosing for the final weekend of Big Ten hoops.
I hate to go back to the game that's happening, but I'm going to go with the Wisconsin-Iowa game. Over 55 3 goals will be attempted on Sunday. Both teams combined for an average of 49 three-point field goals. The Iowa Hawkeyes around 24, Badgers at 25, but the Badgers have been settling for so many more deep shots recently and threes. They're also 2 of the top 3-point attempting teams in the country and also in the Big Ten. And I see the Badgers chucking them up, trying to keep up with Luka Garza. So over 55 3-point field goals will be shot on Sunday.
See, this is why we love George, and he has a future possibly as a sportsbook odds maker because he is bringing us a prop for the second straight time on his weekend preview. He did it in early December, now here to end out the regular season. You're saying over under 55 3-point field goals attempted on Sunday between – wow. You think they're going to shoot 55 combined? That would be something. That would be – everybody's getting shots up.
I'm saying, and I know Wisconsin's defense is good, but both teams like to shoot the heck out of the ball. And last time we saw Luka Garza take on the Badgers, all of a sudden he was looking like damn Wieskamp from outside, hitting everything he threw up. Man, it was a golf ball into a pond. So that's what I think. And like I said, the Badgers have been settling a lot, and that's why I think this number could balloon in this matchup for both teams, especially for Wisconsin.
Maybe I'll reach out to our friends at betonline.ag to see if they can put that prop in place. Call it the George Balekji prop of the 55 3-point field goals attempted. If not, maybe George Venmos everybody that listens to this podcast $1 if it goes to the over of the 55. Don't hold me to it. I take it back. Strike it from the record. Men in Black thing once again.
I'm basing myself off your reaction to that prop bet, though. I'll say it's a good thing I don't run a casino or a book because I think I would be living on the streets very soon if I was just saying, yeah, everyone over under 55 3-point field goals attempted.
Well, I think it's going to be under. I think if even like teams shoot like 22, that's a lot. So, you know, the overplay for you there to Venmo people $1 is not the worst. If I said under, that might be scary. Regardless, we got to finish up with my third and final category, and it's for 2 games, 2 of the final games of the Big Ten regular season. And this category is called Let's Make This As Stressful as We Possibly Can Games of the Week. First, the game on Saturday featuring our Rutgers Scarlet Knights visiting Minnesota. Rutgers, a 1-point favorite, as Ken Palm sees it, the over-under 141. And then the finale of all of the Big Ten regular season on Sunday night, the nightcap, Penn State visits Maryland. The Terps, a 4-point favorite, the over-under total there, 138. The reason I say let's make this as stressful as we possibly can games of the week is because I think both Rutgers and Maryland are on the right side of the bubble right now, squarely in the NCAA tournament. But with losses earlier this week, Rutgers losing in the fashion they did to Nebraska, and then Maryland losing to Northwestern, making this a little bit more sweaty and dicey for them as we get ready to go for Selection Sunday in about a week from now. Let's first focus on the Scarlet Knights. As George mentioned at the beginning of this conversation, it has been 30 years since Rutgers has made it to the NCAA tournament. Last year, the Scarlet Knights would have made it, and they were in a similar spot at the end of the regular season, having to go win a road game at Purdue. They did in overtime, beating the Boilermakers 71-68. Minnesota is at a favorable time in their schedule for Rutgers. Minnesota has lost 6 in a row. They've even lost their last 2 home games where they've been so good at the barn this year. Every time that Rutgers, except one time so far this season, has scored 70 or more points, they have won a game. The only time they scored 70 or more and lost was in that great game against Iowa about midway through the Big Ten season. So if Rutgers can score against the Minnesota defense that is struggling right now without Gabe Kalsher, without a healthy Liam Robbins, they should win this game. They have to win this game. They can ill afford another loss to a bad team in Minnesota. I think Rutgers and Steve Peichel and company go on the road in the barn, end out their regular season with a win, firmly punching their ticket into the NCAA tournament. Just saying that gets me fired up. The second game of this, let's make this as stressful as we possibly can, games of the week. The regular season finale, as I mentioned, Penn State and Maryland. Maryland had won 5 straight games, but that was snapped against Northwestern. And it showed my biggest worry about the Terps is that their defense is so good. Top 30 according to Ken Palm. And they held Northwestern to 60 points. yet the offense doesn't do enough for Maryland to get a win when they hold their opponent to 60 points. Aaron Wiggins was fantastic. He had 26 against the Cats. Daryl Morcell had 14, but they only had 3 other guys score, and they were all in single digits, and it was not very pretty. They need Eric Ayala to have a much better game like he did against Michigan State for this win over Penn State. I actually expect Penn State to cover. I would be a little bit scared if I'm Maryland right now because Penn State has the 31st most efficient offense in the country. They've won 2 of their last 3 games, and in those 2 wins, they scored 86 points and 84 points. That would be a little bit tough, a little bit of a dicey situation for Maryland. And about a month ago, Penn State beat Maryland in the ugliest game of the season in Big Ten basketball, winning 55-50. So I'm a little bit worried for Maryland right now, who was squarely in the NCAA tournament, but with 2 bad losses against Northwestern and Penn State, at least as the metrics go, would not be great for them. I think that both teams will be in the NCAA tournament field, but they are both a part of the let's make this as stressful as we possibly can games of the week. George, give me your thoughts quickly on New Jersey's pride and joy, the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. Will they make the NCAA tournament?
Yes, because they're destined to this year. But also, they got to play through Geo Baker. They're all dogs out in New Brunswick. I'm not denying that in East Rutherford,
100%.
in New Brunswick. I'm mixing up my New Jersey map.
Piscataway.
But Ron Harper brings the buckets. Baker brings it all. Jacob Young brings the energy. Just play through Geo Baker. Let that mother effing dog lead you to the promised land. That's why I think Rutgers, they play defense. They can score when they're clicking. Just don't have any more letdown games. Just bring the energy. They got to play hard. It's been forever since Rutgers basketball has been in the big dance. The music, the dance, it ain't the same without them there. Everyone needs a New Jersey fist pump. Everyone needs a New Jersey fist pump when you're dancing. Yours needs some work, but we'll get it going.
Yeah, that's not bad. 30 years since Rutgers has made an NCAA tournament. 1990, 1991, that season, the last time the Scarlet Knights went dancing. They need to beat Minnesota. I think it comes at an opportune time to end out the regular season. One more good road win for Steve Peichel and company. Rutgers, I think, has officially punched their ticket. The Scarlet Knights will be going dancing. Get the win on Saturday. No disrespect, Minnesota fans listening to this. Nothing against you. You guys are moving on from Richard Pitino. Better luck next year. You're not going to make the NCAA tournament. I think all of the Big Ten, I think all of college basketball can be rooting for Rutgers to get back in the big dance for the first time in 3 decades. Listen, this final full weekend preview of the Big Ten basketball regular season went a little bit long, but you can tell George and I are absolutely enthusiastic for the 7 games Big Ten action that we will see this weekend. Sorry it was a little bit long, but take it into your weekend. Take it from your Friday and enjoy everything. Our picks, our predictions, our winners for this full weekend, the final weekend of the regular season in Big Ten basketball. He is George Balekji of NBC 15 Madison, because I'm not saying the location anymore, but one of the smartest men you will find in the Big Ten Conference. Incredible knowledge today, giving you the insight and picks and winners you need for this final weekend, the regular season finale in Big Ten basketball. George, thank you very much for your time.
Ben, as always, thanks for having me on, brother. Love you.
Love you too.